Today, we're going to be talking about eating with intention. Um, and this is really about nourishing your body and your soul and finding a way to live in harmony with your body in a way that not only makes you feel your best, um, but also that works for your life, being really practical with it. So as we start kicking off, I would love to hear from you, and I encourage your participation throughout. I would love to hear from you about what comes up for you around your body, what brought you to this specific workshop, and if there's anything. Hello. Thank you, Gail, for kicking it off. I appreciate you jumping in there. Welcome. And yeah, because I'd love to hear that, and feel free to ask questions as we go through. So I'll jump in. First off, I'm the author of this book called Eat with Intention. So just to let you know who you're listening to, and yes, this is my forte. In fact, so much of the beginnings of this book and of the work that I do around listening to your body's wisdom, and making peace with food and finding the right nourishment that fuels your body, started at UConn, through having food allergies, through struggling with my own body image, while I was, in my, late teens, early 20s. And doing some, over exercising, trying all these fad diets, doing all these different things to try to achieve what I thought was going to be this ideal body, and really coming at it from a place of lack of love, right? From a place of thinking this body needs to be different, this body needs to change. And so one of the first things I want to share with you is, I know intention is eat. I tend to eat too quickly, as it's usually alone. Yes, perfect. We'll touch on that, Debbie. Towards the end, I'm going to give you some very practical food tips, and that'll be a great thing to talk about. So the reason that you're here is probably because there's something that you feel like you can improve upon when it comes to your food or your body, your exercise, something like that. And one of the things I want to just start off by saying is I want to give you a perspective shift on this. Oftentimes we think that not that we think, but we do, we come from that same place. I don't know if any of you guys can relate to this, right? We come from that place of just wanting to fundamentally change our bodies, right? Of seeing what someone else's body looks like, seeing what something looks like on a magazine, wanting the scale to go down. I saw Linda wants to lose at least 15 pounds, wanting, our body to tone up, that we want. And instead, I want you to open yourself up to, and for those of you that came to my last workshop last week, we talked a lot about the vision that we have for our lives, the best version of ourselves, the not only what do we want to have manifest in our life, what dreams are we going for, what kind of life feels really good to our soul, but also the best version of ourselves, right? The best version of ourselves. I like to call it our rock star self. Your rock star self, the you on your very best day, right? What if our motivation around how we fuel ourselves, how we nourish ourselves, how we exercise came from us wanting to step into that best version of ourselves, came from us wanting to be the version of us that we see in that dream life ahead of us, right? That goal that we're going to accomplish, right? I'm sure, and let me know if you guys can resonate this when we have that image, right? Whether it's like a little movie montage in our head or just a vision of something, of us kind of going into that big meeting or giving that big talk or walking down the aisle or being at an event and looking fabulous, right? We have these like images in our head, and it's not just how our body looks. It's also our energy. It's how we feel about ourselves. It's our happiness, our joy, right? Our confidence. There's so many different elements in that. And when we focus on saying, I'm going to be spending some energy and some focus on taking care of my body, on figuring out what foods work for me and work for my body, right? On figuring out which way of moving works for me and my body. That's when all of a sudden we go from wanting to change something because we don't love it to wanting to change and make shifts because we deeply love ourselves, right? And the key to real lasting change, the key to the lifestyle shift, we always hear about that, have a change in lifestyle instead of a change in diet, right? The key to the lifestyle shift is you wanting to show up as your best self every day. I eat the way I do. I fuel my body the way I do because I want to be my best self. Am I human? Are there times when I wish that, or like I want to have like I don't know, a cappuccino and a croissant or whatnot for breakfast? For sure. And it's not that I like don't ever do those things right now. I'm not, I can't do those things right now, because I know that coffee messes up my adrenals. Personally, for me, right? I know that, and that's what I'm going to teach you today. I'm going to teach you how to figure out what works for you, because that's been the greatest gift. That's been the thing that has made the biggest shift in me and in my clients, is throwing out everybody else's kind of game plans and centering back on our own. But the first important piece that I want you to get, and I want you to think about this or even write it down if you have a journal with you, reframe your motivation. So for instance, if you're like, I want to lose, and this doesn't mean that you can't lose weight. In fact, when you're listening to your body and you following some of the things that I'm teaching you today, you will naturally lose weight. It will fall off and it won't feel like a struggle because you're going at it from such a different space, right? And these changes become permanent. It doesn't become this, why so many of us struggle with weight, is because of the yo-yo aspect of dieting, right? It's because we mess up our bodies and our livers, and we can restrict so much, and then we feel so deprived, so we feel like we have to eat all of this stuff, and we're coming from the wrong place anyway, right? We're coming from a place of, I want to lose this weight, instead of thinking, I want to feel amazing in my body, right? And the little trick there could be, let's say, like Linda so generously offered us, right? So honestly, I want to lose 15 pounds, right? Very reasonable to know that kind of number that you'd like to lose. But what I would ask you to do is imagine yourself without those 15 pounds. Get a vision of yourself in your head without that weight. Or maybe for some of you, your goals are a little bit different, right? You're like, I want to tone up my arms and my abs, or I want to have more energy throughout the day. I want my skin to clear up, right? Whatever it may be. Imagine yourself in the after photo, right? And imagine and connect that goal, right, with an actual feeling of how you would embody it, right? And let those two together motivate and shift you to do some of the practices I'm going to show you, and to create healthy habits and to stick with healthy habits. Okay, I'm just going to take a little pause. I noticed all these things coming in the chat and I don't want to miss them. We've got I followed external rules about food and movement for so long. I feel so disconnected with how to even hear what my body and soul are saying. Well, you're in the right place, Colby, because we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about two different ways you can listen to your body And one is going to be literally connecting to your body's wisdom and listening to what it wants to tell you at the end of the session today. I'm also going to teach you how to be a detective today, how to throw out those external rules and actually go on an adventure to explore what works for you, and find something that will last. Looking ways to get rid of my cravings and lose 15 pounds. Yes, I've been going to Weight Watchers forever, but I'm not losing the weight I want to. And we're going to talk about this next too, because this is a big thing of where not all programs or diet theories are one size fit all. And while Weight Watchers can have amazing results for some people, that might not be your thing. That might not be the thing that ultimately works for you. So we'll talk about how to figure that out. I don't even know what it's like to feel happy within my body. I don't know if that's ever been true for me. I can honestly tell you that I've been in that place. I've been in that place. And what happens is when you start, that's why it's so important. If you start thinking of feeling the feelings of how you're going to feel when you're in your, when you're taking care of yourself, when your body is radiant and healthy, right? When you're really appreciating your body. And we'll talk a little bit about body gratitude as well, because that's an important part of this process. Address cravings and lose the excess pandemic pounds. CrossFit athlete on a macro-based nutrition plan, looking to add muscle. Yeah, please, on the gives and takes within nutrition. I feel that eating is such a mental state. When I'm busy, I don't think of food. And when I'm home, that's all I think of. Nothing changes other than absolutely. That's an astute observation, Susan. I missed the last session. Can I view that? Yes, absolutely. I'm sure Lauren can let you know in the chat how to find that session. And yes, mindless and habitual eating. And I think you guys will be given a recording to this. Oh yeah, there you go. Lauren already did it. Okay, so first let's talk about a few things. I think first let's talk about the body gratitude. I think that's a big thing. How many of you guys can relate to that? Feeling like you have never felt like you were at peace or loved your body? I can tell you, I actually pre-pandemic was volunteering with Soul Cycles Foundation and charity, and we'd go into these middle school classrooms in downtown LA, and I would teach them body love and mindfulness, mindful eating, and listening to their body. And I can tell you, at sixth grade, we sat in the circle, and the girls from Soul Cycle were like, you know, or the people that I was working with, they were like, no one, like, you can't talk about this with sixth graders, right? They're not going to have an experience. They're too young to even, you know, have a complicated relationship with their body. And I was like, just you watch. And I just held space. I was like, let's all go around, and I just want you to share what your relationship with your body and food is. That's all I said. And these little sixth graders, I was like crying. It was, these sixth graders were talking about how they feel guilty when they eat potato chips sometimes because they know it's not good for them, or how they, you know, wish that they wish that they were faster. Like they already had qualms with their body. So it's part of our journey. And I think part of it is releasing the self-judgment of it, knowing that all of us, no one, I like to say, we all came to earth, we all have our earth suits, and we all take some time to get comfortable in them. And so you're on that journey, and you're here, you're learning. And so you're going to figure it out. And I want to let you know that you will figure it out, and it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. There's still going to be days where it comes up, you know, ladies that are listening. I know, you know, especially, you know, around that time of the month, there can be days where you feel so uncomfortable in your skin, right? It's going to happen in life. Quarantine happened. A lot of times we eat emotionally during stressful times, right? As a coping mechanism, and that can feel uncomfortable, right? But it's thinking of the relationship with your body like a relationship with a romantic partner. if you think about this, if you are in a relationship with a romantic partner, if you can imagine being in a relationship with a romantic partner, and you want them to change something, right? Like I wish you woke up earlier, or whatever it is. The way to get them to change that, right? Or the healthy way to get them to change that would be to love them and say, I love you. And I think it would be better for you to wake up early. And I want you to do that because I think it's going to make you happier. I think you're going to have more time to do this or whatnot, right? Coming from that place of love. You wouldn't say to your romantic partner, if you can't wake up earlier, I can't love you, right? We think about, we would think that was nuts, right? For you to walk in to your husband or your wife or your partner and say, I can't love you anymore if you can't wake up early, or I can't love you anymore unless you lose the 5 pounds that you gained in the past couple months or whatever, right? Or I'm not going to be able to love you actually unless you have a 6-pack. We would never think to do that but we do that to ourselves. But we say, I'll love you in another 5 pounds. I'll love you when, you can do that yoga move, right? Or I'll love you when you look great in a bikini, right? We place our love at like some further deadline. So the first thing I want you to is, Margaret said, I was always grateful for my health, but in our culture, when I was younger, I had parts of my body that didn't feel were good enough. I'm older and now seem to know better. One of the benefits of aging. Yes, indeed. And that's, you touched on the subject I was going to get to, a really powerful practice. And I talk about this in Eat with Intention. And I also have for free on YouTube, guided meditation for loving your body. So if you look up my name and guided meditation for loving your body, it's a practice that I think is really important, and something I recommend to my clients is even in the morning when you're taking a shower. When you're taking a shower and you're, washing different parts of your body, just saying some gratitude for your physical body, for your body that works, right? For the fact that you woke up this morning and what a miracle it is, for the fact that your heart's still beating, for the fact that your lungs work, right? We live through an incredible, period of history and are continuing to live through it, where we're inundated with sickness and death. And I lost someone very close to me in January. I'm sure if you didn't, someone that lost someone very close to me. And that can be a helpful catalyst, right? Being close to that awareness of sickness, close to that awareness of death, right? Can be a helpful catalyst in being like, hey, I can love this body. I can be grateful for this body that is working, that is healthy, that helped me get through that sickness, that healed my broken ankle, that, continues to help me show up for my day every single day. And I can say, I love you, body. And because I love you so much, because I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing, I want to make you the healthiest you can be, right? I want to allow you to feel radiant. I don't want you to carry excess weight if that's not making you feel good, right? I don't want you to feel fatigue or have these skin problems or whatever it is that's coming up, right? That's interfering, right? So trying to take that perspective is a great way to start your journey, because if you're going in this because you're like, I hate my body, I'm not good enough, and I need to change, you're fighting against the energy. You're actually sabotaging your weight loss efforts or your wellness efforts, right? Because your focus on the fact that I'm not good enough as I am will end up ultimately sabotaging you sticking to this long term, is the thing that's going to lead you more to emotionally eat or mindlessly eat or have a binge or eat a comfort food, right? Because you're depriving yourself, whatever program you're doing, you will feel like you're depriving yourself because you're not good enough. And that doesn't feel good for anyone. So you're actually emotionally triggering yourself by your own mindset of how you're going about it, right? So I don't know if we have anyone on the call today that has had anything happen. Like for me, I went through a period where I got really sick with a bunch of different food allergies that nobody knew what was going on. And I had to get all these blood tests and I could barely get out of bed and I was having all these crazy pains. And it was an intense kind of few months of all this health melodrama where I was really scared. But what came from that was I realized when I was in that place, I was eating healthier than ever, right? I wasn't even thinking about losing weight, but I lost so much weight. I wasn't even thinking about clearing up my skin, but I cleared up my skin. Why? Because I was like, I have to do what's best for my body right now. I got to give my body all the resources it needs, none of the crap that I know it doesn't want, so that it can heal, so that it can fight this thing, right? And if we can approach even our, a weight loss journey, because whether a weight loss journey is a health journey, right? It's a health journey. If there is something, whether it's weight, whether, like I said, whether it's weight, whether it's a skin problem, whether it's a hair thing, whether it's eyesight, if there's something on your body, right, that you're feeling isn't in the highest place it could be, right, isn't in the best place for it, then it's a health thing, right? And I know the feeling of wanting to lose weight, and the feeling of wanting to lose weight is oftentimes just our awareness that our body wants to be lighter. It wants to be more agile, right? It might want to be stronger, right? It might want to have more muscle, right? And that would make it feel good, right? And thinking of that and really tuning into that to make sure that is true for you, does making this change make me feel like my body's going to feel better. My body's going to be healthier. My body's going to be more fit or radiant, right? Stronger. Those are important things to ask yourself as you're diving into this journey. And then the second part is, like you guys talked about, you mentioned some different, CrossFit and macros, Weight Watchers. I'm sure all of you guys have different ways of eating and ways of working out. And one of the things I really want to encourage you to do is to think of yourself as a detective. Think of yourself as a detective for your body. And, I was just talking about this. I was on a birthday Zoom last night with some of my girlfriends. And one of the girls was kind of asking, like, what do you guys think? Like, should I do macros? Should I do keto? Should I try vegan? Like, I feel like I want to lose weight, and was naming kind of all these different options. And I was like, you know what? No one can tell you what this like one magic bullet is, because we are all so different. We are all so different, right? The real secret sauce is you experimenting, and you having enough self-trust, you having enough connection to your own body to be able to discern what works for you and what doesn't, right? For me, I eat very clean. I eat vegan. I'm gluten-free. And it works really well for me. I feel amazing, right? I have my best friend has been doing like a keto, high protein paleo thing or whatnot for the past year or two, and she's never felt better, right? And she's loving the results in her body. Both of us had great results on drastically different plans, right? So what does it tell you? That it's not about food, right? It's about you getting clear on what works for your body and what works for your lifestyle. And I will say a big part of that is also what you genuinely believe in. That's a third major component. So when we think about what's working for our body, there's this exercise that I recommend all my clients to do, and I'm going to give it to you. Write it down if you have a pen and paper. I'm sorry, my chair is so squeaky if you guys are hearing that. It's so squeaky this morning. So it's called being a food detective, and you can do this with exercise as well, because I also believe the same thing about exercise. Exercise is not one size fits all, and also all these different things are different based on the season of life you're in. Right? So you like, for me, I know definitely that's true for my exercise. I'll go through seasons where I will have a more intense workout. And then right now I'm in a season where it's more yoga and Pilates and bar and walking, right? And it's being able to not judge that, right? To be like, okay, this is just the season I'm in right now. So it's a slower season when it comes to that. When I do those other exercises, I notice that my body really suffers. It doesn't feel good. I don't have energy for the next couple of days. And vice versa. Whereas when I do yoga right now, I feel much better. I feel really rejuvenating. It feels good. The body can be so beautifully simple, right? In that way, where when we tune into it and we're actually willing to observe it, we know what feels good. For years, and this kind of talks about cravings a little bit here. For years, I loved coffee. I still could say I love coffee. I just don't drink it anymore. But for years, I also knew that my body didn't love coffee. Like, there was at no point that I felt like I could honestly say that, like, oh yeah, my body feels great when I have coffee. No, it never felt great when I had coffee. I wanted the coffee, right? My body never felt great. I have an allergy to dairy, but before I figured out I had an allergy to dairy, my body never felt great when I had dairy. I would always get a stomach ache. I would always have some weird hives pop up. I would always, like, sometimes have to just go to bed and drink a lot of water because I knew something was amiss, right? And so sometimes we are getting the signals. Our body is telling us what's working and what's don't. It's us that oftentimes we want to ignore it. And that's why it's so important, that component of wanting to be your body's best friend, of wanting to make these shifts and these changes, because you want to nourish the body of the future you, right? You want to nourish the body of the you that you're stepping into, of the best version of you, living the best version of your life. That's why you're making these choices. That's why you're drinking your water, taking your supplements, working out, eating healthy foods, right? That's why we're doing it, because we want that version. And we all know that how we eat, how we hydrate, what vitamins we take, what we work out, how much we sleep, all of these things affect how we show up. They affect how we show up for our work, our relationships, everything, right? And so it's no surprise that when you guys, if you listened and you took that minute, right, and you visualize what that picture was in your head, it's no surprise that when you visualize that picture, and if you go back and watch last week's session, if you missed it, we went through this visualization of what is a day in the life of the highest vision that you have for your life. What is the day in your dream life look like? And when I go through that, I always say, what are your rituals? What are you eating? Because that's where your stuff's dialed in. That's when everyone's meditating in the morning, drinking their smoothie. That's when they're having the salad or whatever for lunch, right? That's when everything's kind of dialed in, because we actually associate the two together. So the beauty of that is that when you're focusing on the wellness aspect of it, you're also manifesting that future. You're manifesting you to show up as that best version of yourself. So it's a double win. So a little bit more of this food detective work, because I think I want you guys to do this for homework. Keep a diary of what you're eating and notice how you feel after you eat it. It's that simple. It's going to be a little bit meticulous. Do it for at least 2 weeks. and you can go this beyond, try different things. Like I said, the body doesn't take a lot of time to adjust to something. So if you'll know, you may not, lose 10 pounds overnight because of what you ate one day, but you won't, but you will know, wow, actually, I felt more clear-headed that day. I felt really energized. I noticed that my mood was better. Or you might notice the opposite. Wow, after I had that sandwich at lunch, I noticed that I needed like 2 coffees to get through the rest of my work day. I was feeling so tired. I was feeling a little bloated. I was feeling even worse about my body because I was feeling, these are all cues, right? That our body is having an inflammatory reaction to a food. That's having a negative reaction to a food. And so, going through what you're usually eating right now and observing this, right? And if there has been a particular style of eating that you've been curious about, if you're like, oh, I'm curious to try vegan, or I'm curious to try paleo, or I'm curious to try, Weight Watchers or whatever it is. And I also just want to give you a disclaimer that there are so many different ways to eat under all of those various things. Just like if you're counting macros or calories or anything like that, there's a whole variety of ways one could get like 1,500 calories, right? You could get it from eating really healthy whole foods, or you could get it from eating like 2 Big Macs, right? They're not created equally. Your body's not going to feel equally. One is not going to help you lose weight, right? And so that's why I think, whether it's macros or it's Weight Watchers or whatever it is, we also just have to look, are we eating whole foods? Like that's the easiest place to start. Are you eating whole foods? Sometimes we get too caught up in our head when we're tracking all this stuff that we forget, oh yeah, eat the fruit or the vegetable, like fruit or vegetable, number one choice, right? And then whole grains, if you can do whole grains, right? If that works with your body, beans, lean protein, if that works for your body, right? No processed stuff, right? Keeping it simple, keeping it coming back to nature. When we actually simplify it instead of overcomplicating it, the reason that so many of us have cravings, like you guys mentioned before, or can do more damage on our emotional eating binges is because we have so much access to processed foods, right? Processed foods are geared to make you want to eat. They're literally scientifically engineered. I'm not making this up. There's a whole book on it called Fat, Sugar, Salt. It's terrifying if you ever want to read it. Where they tell you about how any like packaged brand you're seeing in the store that's selling cookies or crackers or even soups, all different things like that, have a team of scientists engineering a lot of this stuff with sugar and salt to get it to what they call the bliss point. The bliss point is the point where you have trouble stopping. And why do they want to do that? They want to do that so you continue to buy it. So you buy more and more and more so that you can't just eat that one portion. The processed food system is not rigged for you to be healthy, even on some of the processed foods that claim to be healthy, right? What will help you? What do you suggest about eating out? I find it much harder to eat clean, but especially now the social aspect of going out to eat is very important. Yeah, so we can talk about it out in the wild, so to speak. So first thing, start doing a food diary. And this is like I said, so I just want to get this out. It's like, no, I went on a little tangent. Start keeping a food diary. Keeping the diary alone, I've had clients, they start losing weight just because they're paying attention. Because you'll eat something and then notice how you feel afterwards. And you can also put a note in here, if you're someone that struggles with emotional eating, write down how you were feeling when you ate it, right? So for instance, you can say, I had breakfast. I had some oatmeal. I was feeling satiated and ready for my work day. Good. Thumbs up for the oatmeal. That clearly works for you. Let's say you went to the coffee shop and you grabbed a bagel and your latte or whatever. You write that down. And you're like, well, if I enjoyed it when I first had it, but then I noticed that I just felt like tired and brain foggy while I was trying to get through my morning meetings, right? Again, you're being an objective observer of what. I'm not telling you that means you can't ever have a bagel and coffee. I just want you to start associating, well, I have a bagel and coffee. That's how I'm going to feel that morning. Wow, that other morning I had an oatmeal. That's how I felt that morning, right? And now we can be strategic, right, about what works for us. Same thing, you go out to lunch with your friends. You order one of those like make it yourself salad things with a certain ingredients, and you have to write down all the ingredients in your food journal because some of the ingredients could pop out, right? And then you notice how you're feeling. Well, I was feeling a little bloated after the salad or whatever it is. And again, at first, you're not doing this to make any big changes. You're doing this to get more in tune with your body. That's what it's doing. It's connecting you to touching base with your body after you eat and seeing how that food's affecting you. And you can log your exercise in that as well, right? So being like, went to CrossFit today, was feeling tired, but good, was feeling the good kind of sore tonight or whatever it was, had an extra boost of energy to finish up some work at home. Or I went to CrossFit today and I felt completely zonked, couldn't even like get anything done tonight, had to go straight to bed, woke up, whatever, whatever it is, just observe it for a couple of weeks and start noticing. What you'll start automatically doing, which is why it's so empowering, is that you start to make the choices. And it's not me or anyone else. Even when I do this with clients, I'm not looking over saying, oh, Sarah, I noticed that that bagel made you a little brain foggy, so I guess we should cut that, right? I'm like, no, Sarah, what do you think? What was the most effective breakfast for you this week? What's a good workday breakfast, right? Because if you think about it, when you start knowing how different foods interact with you, then what happens is you'll also notice, you'll also be able to strategically plan them. So if I'm from New Jersey, we love our bagels. And so I used to joke that, it's not that I can't have a bagel, but I just can't have a bagel when I need to use my brain. So bagels are reserved for Sundays where I can kind of chill and just be with my family and not, do that. And then you kind of learn how to strategically move these certain things. And some things, they make you feel so icky, like my coffee, that even though you're like, wow, that's really tasty, it's not worth it. Because here's the thing. When you start listening and following the foods that make you feel good, that's when the weight's going to fall off. That's when your body's going to get back into balance, right? And these foods will tend to be the less processed, less sugary, less salty, more whole foods, right? The fruits, the potatoes, the grains, the more pure foods, right? But we're all going to have a really wide range when it comes to that, because all of us have different bio individuality when it comes to our bodies and what's going to be working for us right now. And when you're able to start doing that, you can even play around, right? If you want to give paleo a go, be like, okay, I'm going to go paleo for a week or two, and I'm going to start logging how I start feeling, right? I'm going to go vegan for a week ago. When you're making a big dietary shift like that, you want to give it a few weeks. I would recommend doing at least 3-4 weeks of it, because the first week is you're just going to be feeling a lot of the feelings of the change. And then you want to get to the point, right? But that's why start this detective work just where you are, start it with how you're eating right now, and just start discerning those choices. And so the next part of it is, and let me know if anybody has any questions when it comes to the food diary, because I'm going to move on to, you're talking about eating out. And this kind of goes to my next little topic, which is rigging yourself for success. So this is planning ahead your meals and eating out. So once we are able to get clear, being a food detective, and here's the thing, I want to put this in. There's a $1 billion industry that's trying to make you feel like you don't know what's best for your body, right? That wants you to believe that it's complicated, that wants you to believe that you have to like eat like only, 2 carbs while you're standing upside down, and then at 3 p.m. have a healthy fat, and then like just trying to make it insane for you, because the more insane it is, the more you feel like you need them, because the more lost you feel, right? So I hope this gives you some power back, right? Of knowing that like you already know what's healthy. I know I could walk, I don't even know any of you, and I know that I could take any of you into a grocery store with me. We could walk around the grocery store and you'd be easily able to point out what's whole food and what's not. We'd go through the produce department. We see the fruit and the vegetables. You'd be like, obviously, this is healthy food, right? You'd, move through the meats and the fish, right? And you'd be like, okay, this for some of us, that's healthy food, right? You'd look at the, chocolate covered candy gummy worms or whatever and be like, that's not really good food. That's not really healthy food, right? You'd look at, the sprinkle covered cereal with, chocolate chips and be like, yeah, probably not a nutritious breakfast. So have faith in yourself. You actually do know. It's not that the more simple you keep it and the more whole you keep it, and also the more that you're a detective for yourself, right? And for those of you that are struggling with something, like with my coffee thing, right? It's like there may be some things that you really like that you kind of know aren't good for you, right? And being that food detective, even while you're keeping track of it, right? It took me, I just want to be clear, like it took me months, years, if I'm honest, probably months of actually wanting to, years of knowing it wasn't working for me, right? And then months of actually me just observing and notice how every time I had coffee, how I felt for the next few hours, right? The ill effects of it. And I had like a ton that were not subtle, to eventually be like, okay, I don't want to feel that way. So sometimes you have to do it, but then when you fall apart, it's not like I don't feel like I'm restricting myself. I feel like I'm honoring myself, right? Because I allowed myself to come to that place organically. So whatever that thing is, for you, the more you observe it and the more you become that detective, you become the person that knows what's working for your body and what's not. And you'll notice that, right? So when it comes to eating out and rigging yourself for success, making it, once you figure out, and I often say, as you're doing your food detective work, find some good go-tos, right? Like I said, with the example with my client, Sarah, like look after a few weeks of doing the detective work, look and say, okay, well, out of all these different breakfasts that I tried, was it the smoothie, the oatmeal, the fruit salad, the cereal, the muffin, like what was it what were the ones that felt the best, right? And maybe you pick 2 or 3 and you're like, okay, fruit salad felt really good on like the morning I wasn't really feeling hungry. It felt like enough, but it was perfect. So I'm going to keep that. I'm going to keep that as an option in the back of my head for those mornings when I wake up and I'm just not really hungry yet, but I want something. Great. Check that off. Okay, the oatmeal was a great option. The oatmeal was a good option for the morning when I woke up and I was really like kind of craving carbs and wanted something more substantial. That was a good option. Great. Oh, look, I found this, I don't know. I found some wrap at my local deli. And that was a great option that made me feel pretty good for the rest of the day and got me through till lunch. when I was running late and didn't have time to do anything at home, right? So finding those couple of things. So that also goes and do the same thing for lunches and the same thing for dinners. Now, when it comes to eating out, like you mentioned, this is where planning ahead is so helpful. And most of us, especially when we're going out with friends or we're going out with coworkers at lunch, whenever that happens again and stuff, we know the places that we're going to ahead of time. So if you can, especially, I always used to say, because I've worked with a ton of people that back when everyone was working in offices, we would look at all the different lunch spots they had in walking distance of their office. And we'd get all of the menus and we would look, okay, well, what are the options that are going to be the healthiest here that are going to work for me, right? And so let's say you have like a deli that you tend to go to for lunch when you don't make your lunch or bring your lunch, right? Then try out a couple different options at the deli. Try having like maybe the sandwich that you love, see how that feels. Maybe switch up and trying, okay, let me try a lettuce wrap, see how that feels. Let me try this salad, see how that feels. Let me try the soup. And become the detective of being like, oh, okay, actually, even though I tend to always just order that Italian sandwich or whatever, I actually don't feel that good after it ever. So maybe it's time to switch it up. Let me try ordering this soup. Wow, I got their minestrone soup. And that actually was really delightful and filling and I enjoyed it. And also I felt like I still had energy and focus for the rest of my day. When we're thinking about things like that, like, is this food fueling me properly? AKA, is it allowing me, we shouldn't feel exhausted after we eat, right? We should actually feel fueled. Food is fuel. So if you eat something and then you feel like, great, I have some energy for the next few hours of Zoom meetings or whatever, then that's like a thumbs up. That food works for your body. When you eat something and you feel exhausted or you feel like you need a coffee to just like boop you right back up from what you just ate, that's a sign that your body's not processing that food well. Then that your body is struggling to digest it, that your body is getting some level of inflammation from it. And those are the foods that lead us to weight gain, right? Those are the foods, because now you're putting extra, what do you call it? You're putting an extra load on your liver, trying to digest the fats in it, trying to break it down. Your digestion is stalled because it's trying to break it down and your body's struggling, right? And so it's important to just, that's why I like the shift, instead of thinking so much of like, you guys know what's healthy within reason, right? Don't be like, we can be adults and know that, right? So if you're like, okay, the like Philly cheesesteak sandwich is probably not like the healthiest choice, but you can still try that out and see, okay, well, how do I feel after I have that Philly cheesesteak, right? Because there's going to be a varying spectrum of how that works, right? If I ate a Philly cheesesteak, I'd be in the emergency room. That's how bad my body handles all of the ingredients in that, right? Some of you might have it and just have a minor stomach ache, right? Does that mean that you should eat that every day? No, but now okay, I can have that every once in a while. That doesn't completely like murder me, so to speak. But when I had that grilled chicken salad or whatever it is, actually, I felt really good for the rest of the day. And that's what you want to go for. What are the foods that are making you feel really good? What are the foods that are helping you show up more for your life? Because when you focus on that, the weight will fall off. The weight will fall off because you will be guiding yourself towards the foods that actually work for your body. So to go again, when you're going out with friends, look at the menu and figure out what you're going to eat before you get there. So I do this all the time. I love going out to eat. I love going out to eat. And I was so excited when things started opening up again, because I was losing my mind a little bit, not getting to like go out to eat ever. But even with that, I will always look at the restaurant's menu ahead of time. And then I pre-plan what I want to order so that I'm not, I have this saying, game plan sober and I talk about this when I talk about eating with intention around holidays as well, is that when we game plan sober, what that means is don't wait until you're hungry. Don't wait until you're in that environment. Don't wait until the bread basket is there and everyone's like, eating their bread, drinking wine. And now you're like, oh, I have to figure out what I'm going to order. Because once you wait until that moment, the chances that you're going to make an aligned decision based on your best knowledge are small, right? And so if you game plan ahead, then you come up with what are you going to do? So maybe you're like, listen, I'm not going to do the bread basket because I know that I'm just going to fill up on empty carbs, and then not, really fully enjoy the meal that I'm going to get. I'm going to look at the menu. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to get the salmon. And it's however you want, like salmon, and it has broccoli and potatoes, right? Or maybe it's with fries, right? And you can say, okay, I'm going to ask them if they can sub out the fries for extra vegetables or some roasted potatoes instead, because I don't want to do the fried food right now, right? So game plan it all in your head before you even get to the restaurant, so that you don't even look at the menu. So that when your friends are, doing their own thing, you already have your game plan, you've already committed, and you've already kind of negotiated with yourself, right? So if you're in a period right now where you want to lose weight, then you're going to be, keeping it cleaner, keeping it healthier. So for you, that might be, okay, I'm not gonna eat the empty calories, right? The bread. I'm not gonna split like the fries with my friends or whatever. I'm gonna make sure I get a really nutrient dense filling meal, right? That's gonna fill me up, that I'm still gonna enjoy. And I'm going to skip on some of this other stuff, right? And it's up to you how extreme you want to go with that. Like if the salmon's in a butter sauce, and you're like, I'm going to ask them if they can put the sauce on the side so I can control how much sauce I use, right? And again, it's empowering yourself. So if you want to lose weight, then you're going to want to lean on the side of really eating cleaner, right? And maybe you're just going to say, okay, we're going to like rain check on the Philly cheesesteak right now. And I'm going to stick to this minestrone that makes me feel good. And that I know is like, working better for my body right now until I move through this plateau. And then for those of you that are, maintaining, or want to find things that feel healthy for you and have, here and there, then you can play around with introducing, maybe for you're like, okay, well, I'm going to skip the bread and I'm going to skip the fries, because I don't really need that. And they don't really make me feel good anyway, but I know I'm going to love this salmon and it looks really good with these roasted vegetables. And then I'm going to split dessert with everyone because they have this awesome banana cream pie that I definitely want to taste, but I'll split it so I don't need a whole one because that'll be like a sugar bomb anyway, right? So you have that kind of little negotiation with yourself, but again, bringing it back to that's coming from a place of self-love, right? It's coming from a place of self-love and not my body is wrong, so I can't have the fries. It's saying, oh, you know what? I know that if I go out, and here's the thing, if you do this while you're food detectiving it, right? Let's say you do go out, and it's fine. You don't have to beat yourself up about it. You go out, you forget to sober game plan, as I said, and you have your wine and you eat the bread, and then you split some of the fries, and then you have your salmon, and then you also eat a dessert. Then you're just gonna notice that night that you don't feel good, right? You're gonna notice the next morning that maybe you even have a food hangover, right? I'm sure some of you guys have felt what it feels like to have a food hangover. And so it's not that we're not eating the fries or the bread or whatever the thing is, right? Because we need to restrict ourselves. It's that we're getting more in tune with our body, right? Most of the time, unless it's exceptionally homemade, like something really special bread, like for me, I just know that I never feel good. Like never feel good. I'd rather focus on like the really yummy entree that I'm going to get, right? And so we're doing these, we're making these negotiations because we know what's going to make us feel the best ultimately. And you know what feels amazing? You know what feels even better than eating fries or whatever it is. I don't want to like make it seem like this is like an anti-fry movement or whatever, but in general, fried foods have really unhealthy fats in them for you that are not helpful with weight loss if that's your goal. But it's what feels really, really good is when you don't do that, when you game plan and then you stick to your game plan. And then at the end of the night, everyone else is like, oh my God, whew, I feel so full, or oh my God, I feel so tired, or I feel bloated, right? And you're like, I feel great. I have my tea. And this builds, I can tell you, does anybody have any questions on this? I know, I feel like I threw a lot of you. I feel like this probably could have been 4 different sessions as well. And for those of you that are interested in diving more and like hearing, like reading the full details, Eat with Intention has all the explanations for Food Detective and a lot of the things that I shared with you today. But the thing I want to stress with you before we part, and please let me know if you have any questions or anything you want verification on that I didn't cover, is that when we get into this habit of listening to our body's wisdom, of trusting what it's telling us, of trusting what's working for us and what's not working for us, there's something really magical that happens that I've seen over the years with clients, is that you actually build so much self-confidence. It was a surprising side effect that when I first started health coaching almost 10 years ago, I had no like intention. I wasn't like thinking about self-confidence. I was just trying to help people navigate their food journeys. But what I realized was the more they discovered for themselves, right, took that initiative, instead of giving their power away to whatever the latest diet guru is or whatever, you know, some other program says and stuff, they took their power back and said, I am smart, I am wise, my body is communicating with me, and me and my body know what's best for me, and I'm going to navigate this together. One boost of self-confidence. The next boost of self-confidence came when they start paying attention to what works for their body and follow through on it, right? I remember, and I gave this example before around the workouts, when I first started recognizing that doing like the CrossFit more boot camp workouts were really not working for my body. And we're having some, you know, unpleasant side effects for me, and not just, I'm not talking about like muscle soreness and stuff like that, but at the time I didn't know, but I was also suffering from a lot of adrenal issues, and they were causing my adrenals to completely burn out. But I didn't realize this. All I knew is that it wasn't feeling good, and it wasn't not feeling good in the way that like, oh, I just worked out and I'm feeling sore, but it's really not feeling good. The amount of confidence that it took to be like, even though everyone else is saying this is a great workout, I don't think it's a great workout for me right now. Instead, I think I just need to do restorative yoga for a little bit, or walk or whatever. Build. And then when I did that and I saw, wow, oh my God, I'm losing so much more weight from restorative yoga than I ever was from all these intense workouts. It was because I was listening to what my body guided me to. Right. And if you ask some personal trainers, they would be like, no, that's impossible. But I can tell you, I've seen it happen for me, and I've seen it happen for a lot of women, because a lot of us are dealing with adrenal issues. But, you know, when you start following what works for your body, you'll be amazed at how easily weight can fall off. And you'll also be amazed at how easily you change, you have more energy, you are in a better mood, you're more focused, you're showing up for work more, because it's all connected, right? So I guess nobody has any questions. You guys all feel solid? Well, we've runneth over, and I know you guys are probably, it's a work day for you guys, and you probably have to get back. So I want to thank you so much.